Are you ready to join me in transforming fear to freedom? That's the objective of the show. Are you ready to explore with me and my guests? Are you ready to get into the deep and play? This is where it's at, and that's what it's all about. No medical advice here. Use discernment and decide for yourself if the information is right for you. All views and opinions expressed on this show belong to the individual and are not necessarily shared with the producer of the show. Now let's get real and have some fun. Who are we going to explore with today? Come on with me and let's get into the deep. And welcome back to Let's Get Real, chatting with Catherine. I'm Catherine Whalen-Costin, the host and producer of the shows, and it's always a pleasure for me to explore with my guests. I'm attracted to people for their interesting lives, and I'm curious to find out, what happened? How did you get where you are? And this guest is no different. She had such an exciting journey to get where she is today. She started her career, when you think of it, as a singer when she was 6 years old. She was born in Indiana, got into cosmetology, she was a cattle rancher, she was in real estate, she's won numerous awards, and you can check out her bio on my website, catherinewhalencostin.com, and you can read all about her life. But I wanted to talk to her. I wanted to explore and find out who was behind the product that I love so much. Full disclosure, I have been using her Canadian Naturals Rosehip Oil since 2000. And I love it. And I have tried other products and I didn't love them so much. So I wanted to know, who was the woman behind this creation? And then I wanted to know, how did she get here? How did she get here from there, kind of thing? And I knew there was a story, because you just don't have overnight success. That's not really how life works. And I knew there was a journey, and I knew that things, happened along the way. And what I wanted to know was, what was it that inspired her to end up turning rose hips, which grow wild, into something that is, she calls it liquid gold, and I tend to agree. Okay, hold on to your hats, because we're going to get into this chat right now with the amazing Juanita Corbett. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining me, Juanita Corbett from British Columbia, and it's just a pleasure to be chatting with you today, Juanita.
It's great to chat with you too, and I'm just thrilled that I get the chance to do this.
It's awesome. I am so curious. When I was reading your bio, I know, like most travelers, explorers on this planet, you do not get to where you are in one day. It's a journey. And your journey is fascinating to me, because born in the 1940s, and then in the 1940s, when I look at where women were at and the career options available, there were, nurses, sometimes, even that was hard to get into, teachers, secretaries, that type of thing. But that's not where you headed. And I want to know, what was a little girl, Juanita? What was your dream? What did you think was possible for you as a young girl?
I think for me, Hannah, it was already the path was formed for me by my father. My sister and I, from the time we were little, we would sing, and so certainly from just a young girl, very young, it was always listening to my Uncle String Bean, who was on Grand Ole Opry for 20 some odd years, and got to tour with him. So as a very young girl, and being in Kentucky and being with those kind of people, music was what we did. We had relatives that had the wash tub and bass and that type of instruments. They just homemade ones. And so then when I was 10, my parents moved me then to California. But before I was 10, we would go back and forth from Indiana to Kentucky back and forth, because that's where our relatives were. And so we sang. And so I honestly didn't have any big dreams as to what I wanted to be.
It was
It was all
natural.
laid out for me.
Yeah, this is what you were gonna do. Did you did you feel at that time that was there any question, or you just, this is what we do, this is our life, this is our family?
As I got into it, I had big questions. By the time I was 10, I had said to my mother, Mama, when I grow up and I get married and have kids, they're not going to see a suitcase till they're in high school.
Mm.
And I'm pretty sure I embedded that in my brain.
You wanted a
because
home, a permanent, you didn't want
because
to be.
I definitely did not like the getting dressed in the back seat of the car, getting what little makeup on that we're supposed to have on. It was just a go, go, go. And I didn't have a normal childhood. So that's what I was really wishing for, was just to have a normal childhood. And yet when I went to school, and the kids would all say, oh, you're so lucky. You get to travel and you get to sing with these famous people. And really all I wanted to do was just to be a normal girl that got to go and play and do things with other kids.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Loretta Lynn, when, you know, the coal miner's daughter, when you see her getting changed in her outfit in the back seat of the car. And
Right.
I think a lot of country music tours, you know, in those days, there wasn't the dressing rooms, there wasn't those kinds of setups for you.
No, there wasn't. And for me, I can remember being, 6 or 7 years old, my first time to meet Johnny Cash behind the scenes. And he was one of the scariest people I'd ever met as a little girl, because he was in black clothes and he was not a happy, vivacious person. And he was certainly, alcohol and drugs was part of his life at that time. Yeah. And I just was so grateful when June Carter came along, and she changed, and she helped change him.
Yeah. Well, as a child, you would be picking up on, I imagine you that's why they say, check animals, dogs especially, and children, if you want to know if somebody's worth trusting, because kids know, right. They pick up on it. And I think in those circuits, you would have seen a lot of different sides of humanity, the good and the bad.
Yes, I got to see mostly the bad. Because you can just imagine in the 50s, their lifestyle was something that I did not want to go there.
Well, it wasn't conducive to.
They were great in front of on the platform, yes. But behind the scenes, I got to see who they really were, and they were very unhappy people, most of them. Yeah. They were either on drugs or something, and I'd said to my mom, Mama, why is it that, they're famous and they have lots of money and so many friends, and why are they so unhappy? And she said, Hon, it just goes to show you that money doesn't make you happy. It can bring you things that you might want, but it doesn't give you true happiness.
It's not the source, yeah.
No,
and I think sometimes a lot of artists, we see that with comedians too. There's a real dark, wounded person in there, and they use their art to get it out, to get, but also with that wound. And then when you have money to access the drugs and alcohol and the lifestyle, it's not healthy. It's unfortunate, because some of these people were fantastic artists, but you hear about that side of it, that it's an industry that sometimes isn't all that conducive to a happy life.
Well, certainly during those years, the agents pretty well owned you, hun. Lock, stock, and barrel, so to speak. You didn't have any say-so about your own life or about your own choices.
Right.
It certainly changed years later, but not then.
Right.
And so for me, I got to, I got to see it as a small child, I got to see not the good side of that. Right.
So, then you got into cosmetology, which is, was that your next phase, or were you rustling cattle, or not rustling, but wrangling them?
Yeah, the one thing that I did notice when I was singing, backstage is I kept looking for the people that were happy and didn't have to have the applause and didn't have to be famous in order to be happy.
Right.
And I noticed that the people doing the hair and the makeup and getting them dressed, and they didn't need the applause, but they were happy people. They were happier than the ones that were out there. So that was why I chose to be a cosmetologist, hairdresser, esthetician, is because I kept watching them, because I kept thinking, why are they so happy? They're not famous.
They're creating though. They're not, and the
Right.
pressure to perform. That's kind of cool. And it keeps on reinforcing to me how life unfolds with these different little insights. Like you made that observation as such a young girl. And so, and I imagine that also in, creating in cosmetics and esthetician, you got some science there, you've got some understanding of different chemistry of ingredients and so forth. So that was probably also a little bit of a base for where you are today.
I think for me then, I was also searching for, when I watched them do the makeup and the hair, and it made that person so happy, then that's what I wanted to do, is make people happy, even as a young person.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to do. And I noticed that's what they did, and it made everyone was happy. So
yeah. And then
I'm sure that's why at 18, I then took all my full cosmetology courses. I did that in actually Bend, Oregon, started there, Salem, Oregon for my massage. And then I carried on for the next 40 years and taking courses and getting certifications in all of the areas that I wanted to pursue and have when we built the Hills Health Ranch.
Right. And I feel a backdrop here, when I think about as a young child, you seeing so many unhappy people, and children so often, and especially if you were being asked to sing and entertain, you were kind of being told you have the power to make these people happy. And so it would be natural for you to look and see who was making the happy, what kind of,
Exactly.
they were happy and making people happy. So it's an interesting way to see how life shows us these little insights as we go along. So from California, Texas, Indiana is this where you get into the BC? How did you end up in BC?
Again, I'm sure I embedded it into my forehead about when I had children, I would not want them to see a suitcase till they're in high school.
Sure.
And so when my children were small, I came to visit British Columbia, some friends of mine. And when I came over the hill in Clinton, British Columbia, this very, very small town, I saw what I thought heaven must look like. And to me, I saw this beautiful blue sky with beautiful fluffy white clouds, this beautiful big old ranch house with lots of cattle in the meadows, horses. I thought, wow, that must be what heaven is like. And what was amazing was I got a job offer at that very same ranch.
Oh, wow.
And so I decided, you know what? If I don't like it, I can always go back home. That was in May the 30th of 1967. I came through Clinton, and I haven't gone back since, except to visit.
Well, it seems like what you describe is kind of what a lot of those country songs, what those guys were singing about, was those wide open spaces and, that whole thing. I can see where you would, wow, this is it, this.
And so I wanted to raise my children. I still had that in my brain. I was not going to lose that goal of raising my children, where I had a job where I didn't have to leave them, but that we could work and play together.
Oh, wow.
And so ran that Pollard's 3-Bar Guest Ranch for several years, and then for a summer ran Todd Mountain Guest Ranch. Then bought a cattle ranch out at Anaheim Lake, which is way out in the bush. 500,000 acres, for my cattle to roam in. So my children had, if you were to ask them, they would say they had the growing up, they had their dreams fulfilled in being able to be raised in that kind of setting.
Yeah, and for people who are not aware, like British Columbia in where Juanita's talking about, that's not wide open. It's not the prairies. It's not the it's not, you're not wheat fields and then cows that you can see. This is kind of bush, is it not?
Yeah, it's big string meadows, finger meadows coming from the mountains, and lots of bodies of water, lots of rivers and lakes in those areas. For example, from the one ranch house at Anaheim, I could see 5 mountain ranges. I could see the Illagachas, the Itchies, the Big Rainbow, the Little Rainbows, the Coastal. I could see all of those mountain ranges in one, just standing in one place.
Wow.
So to me, it was like heaven. But it was a very difficult job there when you don't have the hospitals close by, you don't have the store close by, you don't have all of those amenities. So it was difficult in some ways, but when you're close to the earth, I think there's a bonding there that stays with you the rest of your life.
Yes, and so is this where you met your husband then in British Columbia?
Yes, Pat and I, now this is my second marriage, so Pat and I have been married 41 years. I met him right at the 108 Mile Ranch.
Okay.
When I was in real estate.
That's right. That was another part of it. So you
were
working for the ranch and learning the ropes of work. Like, what would a day like be on the ranch? Where would you be connected to the earth in that way?
And you would be on horseback. Yeah, you would be on horseback almost every day. All of us had 3 to 4 horses each because you couldn't ride the same one every day. So we were on horseback, and for example, we would take off and ride to the base of the mountains where the finger valleys would come down. We would chase the cattle all up into the high country, and then during the summer they would all wander their way back towards the ranch house. Well, you had to keep an eye on them because there's grizzlies and cougars and mountain lions and all kinds of things that would like to have them for dinner. So you're constantly looking after the cattle. So you're on horseback most of your days.
Did you have any of those interesting encounters with wildlife?
Yes, I did. A grizzly that decided he thought he would like to have us for lunch instead of the cattle. So we had to wind our way back to a little line cabin and stay the night there while we were poking at that grizzly, because we didn't realize that he'd been wounded.
Oh.
And so he was really angry. And we stayed the night in the top of that with my children and other ranchers' children up in the gable ends. And unfortunately, the pack rats had decided to live up there, and it started to rain. So it wasn't a pleasant evening in the gable ends of that little line cabin.
And a grizzly is not like a brown bear. A grizzly they are, I've never seen one up close myself, but I certainly have heard a lot of stories, even in Alberta, of ranchers who are having problems with them because they have no natural predators. They're it. They're the top of the food chain.
Exactly.
And we're not.
and we are part of the food chain.
Yes, that's right.
We were able to get one of the young cowboys early in the morning to, as I kept the grizzly busy, he got down the other end, ran for the one horse that stayed, and rode to the nearest rancher, called the RCMP, and they came in their little Cessna 180 with the door off with their rifle, and they got rid of the grizzly, so we were saved.
Right.
But that definitely was a 24-hour frightening experience. At the same time, I'm sure that was the one time in our life that we started where praying was what we did nonstop. And we were so praying that God would save us and not the grizzly.
Yeah, there was a priest. A priest friend of mine. He used to tell a joke that to be concerned because I was raised Roman Catholic, and when you see the bear going like this in front of you, he's saying grace in your dinner.
Exactly.
So it's just a Catholic bear. That was the joke. But so I mean, I think those are the adventures of of life that you just don't. I mean, you don't want to wish it on somebody to have an adventure with a grizzly because it cannot end well. But if you've had one and you survived, it's kind of fun.
And we survived, yes.
Yeah, that's fun to talk about. Yeah. So then you went from, now you've got your cosmetology background, you've got this desire to make people happy, you're getting close to the land. I'm thinking this is when you start thinking about, hey, people from unhappy land can come to this area and have a spa experience. Was it there? Is that how that started?
Well, for me, I had a really acute kidney infection for 9 years, and that's one of the reasons why I sold the ranch at Anaheim and came to 108 Mile and met my husband Pat, and that's where my healing, the part of my healing started, was actually at 108 Mile. And when I married Pat, and we had decided when we got married, what would we want to do with our time and talent and money? If a friend of ours, a really wonderful Christian fella, had wanted some advice from him, and he said, Pat, if you only had 10 years left of your life, what would you want to do with your time, talent, and money? And then he walked away. And my husband said, that is not the answer I was hoping for.
It's
but
great
it was
advice,
probably
though.
the best answer that he ever got.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah.
And
so
that's a good
us,
way for all of us to look at life. Like, just really feel like you don't want to waste it. You don't want to be in a hurry, but at the same time, you want to get pleasure out of your day to day. You don't want to feel like
yes, and you also want to make sure that you're not wasting your time.
Yeah.
Like, really, what is it that you want? So for Pat and I, we decided to start this health and guest ranch in the middle of nowhere. Some people would say in the middle of nowhere.
I like that. I love that.
And that was an answer to prayer. It was an answer to my being able to fulfill my life's passion, which was to help people. Because I learned early in life that if you want to be great, be a servant. And so to me, that was that passion of wanting to be able to help people, that gave me the avenue, was the Hills Health and Guest Ranch.
Well, and in your biography, which I encourage people to go and look at the website, lgrcc.com or CatherineWhalenCostin.com, Juanita's bio is there, and she goes into more details about this journey, which is so exciting. I mean, we can't get into every little detail today, but I did notice that you were not well as a child. Do you think, and then with this kidney, do you think that started you to wondering about this earth and what it could offer up for healing? What do you think? Because I find a lot of times it comes from a personal place that we have, or a family member that's close to us, that something is not quite right, and we start seeking, we start connecting with the divine and God, or whatever you want to call that wonderful energy that's just created it all. Is there some medicine in God's cabinet?
Yes, and for me, that was an amazing story. Pat and I would often go for a walk along the fence line of the Hills Health Ranch and our next door neighbor, which was Wendell. He had a big cattle ranch. And Pat said one evening, he said, honey, why is it that Wendell has all this grass and we have all of these blinking rose bushes? Because we had horses, and he's trying to to have pasture grass, and these darn rose bushes were just choking out the grass. And so I had remembered saying to him, honey, I don't know why Wendell has grass and no rose bushes, and we have rose bushes and no grass. But I'm going to find out, because I know one thing: God doesn't make junk.
Truth.
And so that truth helped me to get really curious about why did we have all these rose bushes. And as I sought into it, I was just absolutely amazed at the value, the worth that's liquid gold that our customers call it. That is in wild rose bushes.
I just want to say, I want to do full disclosure here, because I don't want anybody to wonder if I start gushing or drooling or something really awful. I want you to know, this is how I found Juanita. This is how, we're looking at her journey, but this is how I found her. I was looking for something for my skin, and it was about 2000, and I found her Rosehip Oil in Calgary, in a spa shop that I never found again. I couldn't find the place where I bought it in the first place.
Right.
And then, and I really loved it, but I think there was a purpose to this. I couldn't find it, and at that time, I wasn't really internet savvy, and I didn't know. I was looking in stores, I was looking everywhere, and so I kept trying different rosehip oils. And I did not find one that came even close to anything that Canadian Natural Oils, that Juanita and her husband Pat are producing. I never found one. The scent was often really pungent, very it always felt like, it was sort of like taking your medicine as a kid. I always thought, well, there must be something good in it, but it really stinks. And that is not an experience I want to have. So I just wanted people to know, I fully endorse this product because it hasn't left me. I've been using it now since about 2000, off and on. And whenever I found you, I kept using it. And I find that it's just remarkable. It's so nice to use. And I just wanted people to know that I'm not being paid for this endorsement. This is how the universe works, to land people in your world, to help you to explore with, to discover this earth, and that's what happens. So I just wanted to get that in there, so that I don't want people thinking that, oh, this randomly Catherine's, no, I know this product and I trust this product, and that's why I wanted to know who was behind this product, because it's remarkable.
I'm so grateful to have you as a person, hun, that's been using it for a long time. Because for me, it's it doesn't matter. I've had people say, well, am I too old? I've been using it for 20 years, but like, if you don't start,
well, I'll be 60 this year.
And I say, listen, as long as you're still breathing,
yeah,
it will definitely help you for sure.
Well, I started in somewhere in 2000, and I'm going to be 60 this year, and I am having great, I really love it. It's not just for my face, but for, hands, everything. I love it. I'd eat it if you could.
Well, one of the things that's wonderful about it is actually how I did so much research with the National Research Council. I had so much lab work done on all of it. I took 2 years to study rose hips, because, and bless Pat's heart, he just kind of, as he would see me gather gallons in our house and drying them and doing all kinds of things with them, he just would turn it. You could see he wanted to say, what in the world have I gotten into? But he let me do what I wanted to do. He let me go through all the research and all the money that it took to do all this. Yeah. And each time that I would find something new, I would get so excited. So I realized that God had blessed us with rose hips, and Wendell only had grass.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And well, you had another purpose. For people the wild roses that we have them in Alberta too, but they are really, I mean, that fruit, when you call it gold, it kind of makes me laugh because the thorns on those things getting to
Yeah.
that fruit, I mean, it's well protected gold. I mean, it's not easy. And I mean,
Yeah.
they're beautiful roses. The roses are beautiful,
Right.
but it's the rose hip that is
It's
where
the
the
fruit. Yeah,
is,
absolutely. And
yeah.
I think for me, it's been a wonderful journey in just always not only learning about the rose hips, but all of the comments and the people that have continued to buy it 20 years later, still buying the rosehip oil. If you go to the Spirit Spa in Halifax, or you go to the Fairmont Spa in Banff, or you go to the spa at Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, or the Sahara Spa, or if you go to the one that's we have a great little spa that is in on Granville. There's all these different spas that have been using it, and they still buy it, and they call it the liquid gold. So that's where I got that from.
Well, it truly is. And it's just that it's so, I mean, there's a lot of people, women in particular, who would put anything on their face if it will give
Right.
you results, even if it doesn't smell good or whatever. But I'm not really that way. I'm very sensory, and I like something that smells nice. It's not overpowering. It feels good. It's, and I know not everyone can use a rosehip, or some people are, they might have an allergy, but for those of us who are not, this is really so incredibly awesome. So can I understand you brought some stuff to show us today, so I'm
Yes, hon. I just wanted to show you what um, how this works. I don't know if you can see this,
yes.
but
If you can
we
tip it
take
up
the
a
rose
little
hips.
bit more, just a little bit more, so we can.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't
want you to
want to
tip
lose
it off.
it.
Okay, that's
This is the
great.
rose hips, and then you separate the seed, and the oil is in the seed, and then we put this through the crusher, and this now is just the seed itself, and then we turn that into a powder, and that's the scrub that so you get the oil from the rose hips from here, and I also make an oil from the actual fruit of the rose hip, oil from the seed, and then what's left is just the shell of the seed. And I had the UNBC up in Prince George do research on this, and they said, Juanita, don't throw that away, because I wasn't sure what it was good for once I took the oil out. It's really high in calcium and high in vitamin A, and so I took that and I break that down now, and this is just a really fine scrub, and that's what I make my rosehip scrub out of,
Oh,
is the
wow.
hull of the seed.
So there's so much more to this than just the oil. I mean, you've found all kinds of, it kind of reminds me of the Aboriginal people who didn't waste anything. Everything had something. There were
Right.
so many purposes, and it's like you're doing that same thing with the rose hip, and I mean, it's a lot of work. That's to be able to, and not just work, but the research, the science that goes into it. And you've got lots of awards for your spa work, and for the rosehip oil itself being endorsed by all these different spas. They wouldn't be using
Yes.
it if it wasn't just so amazing.
And I think too, hun, the amazing part is, these are all wild, and there's thousands and thousands of acres and millions of these rose bushes, and you wonder, well, I wonder what they're good for. But when you realize that the rosehip is one of the highest forms of vitamin C in the world, from 10 to 100 times more C in rosehips than in any other food source. And there's universities that have, whether particularly in Europe, during the war, these the soldiers, they were worried about scurvy,
Right.
and so universities went into and they did research on their rose hips, and they found an amazing. Not one child or one soldier got scurvy during the war. So that really intrigued me. And then I realized, so for 2.5 years I studied um, from other naturopathic physicians and other doctors about how the skin works. And I realized that rose hips is one of the most potent natural medicines that you can use.
Yeah, and that story about during the war, that was I read up on that many years ago when I was looking into rosehips for myself, and you know the benefits or whether I could use it or not, and so forth. And I think there was people should look that story up because it's fascinating to see how they used to pay the kids just a
Yes,
small amount of
go
money
pick
to,
them.
yeah, go pick the, yeah, I think that's really, and the beauty, you know, kind of makes you wonder um how, why the road, it's so valuable, it's got all this nutritious parts to it, and it spreads like crazy. Like I have a couple of, well, I have a few of them, and I've tried to make the rosehip oil myself, and what I found, and this is why I really want to let people know you're available, because you can try and make it yourself, and I do make a lot of things myself,
Absolutely.
but yes, but there's a trick. There's a, not, it's more than a trick. It's a science. It's an understanding, because although I did make some and I did like it, it's very hard to keep it lasting throughout the winter. You'll get mold on it if you don't have the right ingredients. You'll get, you know, I'm not asking you to tell us your trade secrets. I'm just telling people, if you don't want to go through all that, go to their website, go to Canadian Natural Oils. Is that, am I saying it right? Canadian Natural
Yes.
Oils?
Yes.
Yeah, and order it for Pete's sakes, and make sure that that Juanita passes on this wisdom to the next generations. I hope you have children that are going to keep this going.
Well, we hope so. I
Because I,
think one of the things, Hun, that I learned more than anything is what um, natural things across the, you know, like in the drugstore that a person purchases that they don't realize is depleting the vitamin C from your skin, right? For
mm,
example, antacids, um, your anti-inflammatories. It, the nutrients that are depleted is vitamin C, folic acid, iron, and of course potassium. Um, it also oral contraceptives. It literally depletes your B's, your C, your magnesium, and your zinc from your body. And so we honestly, most people don't realize that what just natural things that they might be taking from the drugstore is literally pulling that C right out of their skin. And at 70, I'm going to be 77 this summer.
wow.
And for me, I just understanding that what I might take is depleting my skin. So what I need to do is always be concerned about putting it back in, right? So when I realized how powerful the rosehip oil was, I just realized how exciting it was that I could strengthen the structure of my skin by simply using rosehip oil and taking vitamin C. It isn't going to do it all by yourself, but if you're type of person that is trying to keep your health as strong as possible, it's rose hips is just amazing because you can eat them. You don't
Yeah,
have to just take oil from them.
yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say. You also have a tea that people, and that's, you can get a lot of vitamin C from the tea. Am I correct?
Oh, absolutely. And the only thing is with rosehip oil, I had to make sure that I could cold press it because you can use the solvent extraction, but that depletes most of the nutrients. So I had to order this very expensive cold press machine from Germany in order to be able to extract the oil without depleting the actual nutrients. And heat will extract or deplete some of that nutrient. So, but when you're making tea, you're only steeping it for 3 to 5 minutes, and so it still has a wonderful ability, to give you the vitamin C.
Yeah, I really enjoy. I'll sometimes even, you know, put it in my little sieve or, you know, strainer, and I'll put it in with other herbal tea, and just it's an, if I want a different flavor or whatever, I find I really like it.
Yeah,
It's
you can add it to all other types of teas as well, for sure, like you said. I think for me, the big surprise was how much it is the one food source that has as much bioflavonoids as it does vitamin C. And your body doesn't accept vitamin C without the bioflavonoids. So it's the one food source that you can use or you can pick and take, and literally you're getting the whole family of vitamin C.
yeah, which is, I mean, it's I mean it, you know, when you think about nature and the fruits and the things that come from our land and our earth, it's pretty powerful for healing and for keeping us in that state of homeostasis, because we got it available to us. It's just learning how to do it. But I say, I really do encourage people to experiment and try things themselves. But after you've done all your experimenting, then, and you're not happy, go to Canadian Natural Oils, because that's, because I couldn't find you. That's when because I have tons of roses and rose hips, and I do, and it's kind of fun to do it. If you're only going to make a small quantity that you're going to use in a short period of time, then that's fine. But if you want something that can last, like my bottle that I've got from you, I think previous time I bought, I think it was well over 2 years, and it was still good. And it didn't.
2.5 year shelf life, 2.5 years. If you leave it in a dark, cool place, it does not break down.
Yeah.
Which is great. And that's why I use the blue cobalt bottles, because that doesn't allow the ultraviolet rays to break it down.
Yeah. So so aside from, you have the tea now, you have the rosehip oil. What other kinds of products do you have? What are you doing with this?
I've got it right here.
Gold. Yeah.
Can you see that? Okay.
I can see it. Ooh.
There you go.
It does look like gold.
Yeah. For me, honey, it was. Actually, guys, for me, it was just a journey of learning. Each time I would find things out in our 20,000 acres that we had at that time when we had the ranch, I would find all kinds of things. I'm just wondering, I wonder what that's good for. Yeah. So, always the rosehip oil has been my key product that I have really been so grateful for. But I also make the chamomile oil and what's called the chamomile salve, which is the all-purpose salve. And that's because children, for example, if they have eczema or they have cuts or rashes, the chamomile is an amazing plant. And literally within hours, you'll be able to see the difference, because it literally removes the actual inflammation.
I wish I had that when I was a child. Boy, I had terrible eczema. Oh, it was, and there was nothing and they were doing things now that we know today weren't really helpful, like putting cortisone cream on it, and then I'd wrap them in plastic, and I'd go to school with my hands in plastic bags inside of gloves, and I couldn't hold the pencil. They'd be so swollen with because I had the weeping eczema, so they were all it was like a big thing of blisters. But I eventually kind of outgrew it as but I didn't know about chamomile. That's is there not also, do you make a tea as well with that? I've heard of that.
I don't use it as a tea, but certainly I always buy it from the health food store, like other people. But the rosehip tea is just amazing. The other products that I've done is I've made a lotion, and the basis of the lotion would be the rosehip oil. Mm-hmm. So always, that's been from day one, that's been a big one for me. One that I created because my husband had acute asthma. When he would fly, he would literally, at one point, he actually went blind. And he came home, didn't tell me until it happened. He sneezed in his office and he went blind because his sinuses were so congested that it was pushing on his optic nerve. So I literally prayed about this one because I didn't know how I was going to help him, but I knew there must be something out there because God doesn't make junk. So I literally created the actual peppermint antiseptic spray, and he has not had that problem since. And so we've been so grateful. And a number of people who have breathing problems, or that if you're going to fly and you don't want to get the virus, it's one thing, because when you have frankincense, tea tree, rosemary, and peppermint, those are all antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral. So those help you in just protecting you from the airborne bacteria.
So what do you do? Spray it around yourself, or spray it? How do you use it?
Well, what you do, when you've come in from shopping,
Mhm.
and you want to wash your hands right away, and you want to spray the doorknob because your grandkids just came in and they're coughing and sneezing. It literally, you just spray the air or spray the counters, and it works like a darn. It's just wonderful. The other thing that you can do with it is if you are having trouble breathing, or so many of us don't sleep well at night,
Mhm.
you can literally spray it on a Kleenex and put it on your chest, and then cover that with a piece of saran wrap, and that sticks right to you, and your breathing will be enhanced within just minutes.
Oh
So
my
I have
goodness.
a number of people who buy it simply so they can sleep better at night.
Yeah. I did not know that. I'm going to be I'm going to be ordering soon, I feel. I feel an urge coming on.
Yes, it works well, and it just helps to boost your immune system,
Mhm.
because today we're also worried about this coronavirus and about the flu that so many of us get during the winter months, and then also in the spring. And for us, it's just helping you to, particularly if you're flying and you're breathing that same air that everybody else is. It's a scary thought today, but certainly
Yeah,
for me, I just use the peppermint spray, the antiseptic spray.
right. I think the thing is to use the tools we have, and hygiene has
Exactly.
always been a big thing. I don't know why, especially there's more of us on the planet. We're living closer to each other. We're traveling more. We have all of these things. So we have to maybe just upgrade maybe where we've been lax on hand washing, and just the way we behave. Cover your face and nose when you're sneezing. Not everyone ever learned that. You go in places and you see people that just don't know those social skills, which unfortunately you have to protect yourself and your family. And so it's nice. So what else have you got there? You've got,
So what I've got, hun, is I've got the scrub, and it comes in two different sizes, and that's what I showed you, that powder.
what's that
That
for?
so that's the scrub where most of us need to exfoliate.
Hmm.
So that's just a wonderful scrub for that. I also have created a chickweed um, anti-aging balm that is amazing. And most people say, chickweed? Is it that weed that grows in my flowers that makes me so angry? It The chickweed hunt is absolutely stunning when you realize the worth of chickweed. Again, God doesn't make junk. It improves your circulation. It beautifies and tightens your skin. It improves the vitamin C deficiency. It's useful for acne. It's high in B complex. It's helpful for healing with the eczema, psoriasis, itching. It reduces inflammation. It's an astringent. It's high in polysaccharides. There's so many things that chickweed is good for, extremely high in vitamin A. And if you want flawless, disease-free, smooth skin, you need to be high in vitamin A. So I made a balm that it just takes very little, and you put it on your fingers and it melts, and then you just put it into your skin at night before you go to bed. It's amazing. And
So
and
this,
actually, it's one of the things that you could use, for example, for hemorrhoids.
oh,
Chickweed is really good for hemorrhoids.
so this
So
poor
it's
little weed has been attacked and hated for so long that it decided
exactly,
to create as many good things so that please don't hate me anymore.
yeah,
But people
exactly.
don't know. And so,
Yeah, right. So it's one of those things that, you think, wow, chickweed, because most people just hate it, but it's such a powerful tool in your medicine cabinet is chickweed. So I've made that. So and then I've made a moisturizing mist that is an anti-aging as well. It has essential oils, and so that after you put on the rosehip oil and you want to go for the day, and you put your lotion on, and then your skin, especially in Alberta and here it's quite dry during the winter months, and your skin gets very dry, and you just need that little squirt of moisture.
mm-hmm.
So you can put that on if you've got your makeup on and you don't want to apply lotion or oil back on. You can just spritz a moisture spritz, and that helps to hold everything.
That is great. I wondered about that. I figured you might have some other little, you know,
Yeah.
tools to use.
Little
Because
tools.
yeah, well, and I mean, I know, I mean, I love the rosehip oil. I've used that. I've had your tea. I love it, and I also have had the lotion, the rosehip lotion that you make.
Yes.
And it's lovely. It's not greasy and it soaks right in. I really like that, because a lot of times you're doing things, your hands are in the water, you wash your hands, and then, you've got to go work on your computer or read papers or magazines. And if you've got oily stuff on it, the print comes off in your hands. And
Exactly.
and I found that one to be really not greasy and really nice to use. I didn't use that on my face. I used it on my hands and that. Can you use it on your face?
Oh, absolutely, hon. You can use the lotion, right? And if you want to put the rosehip oil on first, and all you have is the rosehip oil and, of course, the lotion, the velvet body lotion. All you do is just put the size of a pea on your fingers and massage it in, and it goes in very quickly, and it holds the moisture in your skin.
Ooh, I have to try that.
It holds the moisture. So, and you don't need very much of it. It goes a long way, so it lasts a long time.
Yeah. Well, I think it's fascinating that for you to have come from singing in the Grand Ole Opry type of setting and all that kind of thing. But then when you do realize the story and you think about that whole cowboy genre and the atmosphere of it, and then you noticing that, hey, these guys who are singing and entertaining are just not happy, and then looking for the ones who were, like, and how each little piece in your puzzle led you to this. And I'm sure that it's going to be a lot more. It never ends. I mean, as long as we're here and we're learning and we're gathering up information. So it's very exciting. I am really impressed with, your journey, but also the fact that you were willing to take a chance, and you and your husband invest in these, because it does. Like, that's why I wanted to share with people. It's not easy to do things like this. You need that understanding of what the plant is, the science background, the cosmetology, and the machinery. Everything takes resources. So,
and I think for my healing process of, we started the Hills Health Ranch because I was introduced to a naturopathic physician that literally, and my kidney had been infected, and I had, like inflammation for 9 years.
Oh boy.
And he was able to take that problem, and I'd lost one kidney, and I was looking at in the future losing the other one. And he was able to stop that process. And what I learned from him, and just heading down that pathway, that we all need to help to take care of ourselves. And so for us, the Hills Health Ranch was the avenue that I could go down and literally help heal just hundreds, thousands of people, hon. We had thousands of people that came in that 33 years that we were able to help. And so that gave me, again, the boost and the passion to keep wanting to try to learn more of what is out there that,
so now that
has a value.
That health ranch, it's like a luxury spa, but also with the roughness of the outdoorsy sort of. It was a combination, isn't it?
Yes. You know what I told people is, if you're looking for brass and glass and marble, you've come to the wrong place. But if you're looking for some of the best professionals in the business in helping you to learn how to take whatever level of health that you're at and to enhance it, you've come to the right place. Because I said, all we have is 2x4s, and we don't have any brass and glass and marble. And that was, so I didn't want them to be disappointed in the fact that our brass and glass and marble was our 20,000 acres. That was our diamond in the rough, was right here. The land was so knowledgeable.
Well, and I mean, even when you think about brass and glass and marble, as much as they're lovely in their different settings, when you get it out of balance, when you get too much of that and not enough of earth and wood and trees and water and
Exactly.
sunshine, that's when we get sick. So there has to be that balance. And it sounds to me like that's what you found with your spa ranch. Now, you're still involved with the ranch, or you sold it? Or
no, we sold that in 2014. But one of the lines that my husband would tell people was that Japanese had a wonderful saying. we all need to go bathing in the woods. And that's what our ranch gave people. Is we had, we had literally miles and miles of trails and beautiful wilderness that had never been touched with any pesticide, herbicide, fertilizers. And so we had the wonderful, natural, organic, the way the good Lord gave it to us. That's what we were able to serve to other people. And so we help people to learn to go bathing in the woods.
Yeah. With somebody watching out for Mr. Grizzly looking at your bare butt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want, I just,
Yeah.
I just, that full moon thing is not a good thing. It might attract the grizzly. I'm just.
You might not want to go walking at night.
No, of course, but that's how it is anywhere in Canada. With we have wildlife. That's what's so great about it. We have all these different elements, but I think it's important for people to be aware that this earth is producing the things we need to heal. It's like an answer to our prayers, as you say. It's
absolutely.
We are living in a more, in many ways, toxic environment. We all know that with the things we're producing and consuming, but at the same time we have this balance. We have the rosehip oil, the chamomile, the chickweed guy who's, I'm not going to curse him anymore. That's just
yeah, exactly. And you don't want to curse that little fella because he's really powerful. And I think one of the weeds that everybody in the urban areas dislike is of course the dandelions. But dandelions are absolutely stunning in what they deliver when it comes to health. So that's my next little passion. Is I really want to study the dandelion and see what I can do with it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you will, because the sky's not the limit. That's the thing. We can
Absolutely.
just keep going and exploring. I am so excited about this. So I want people to know how they order by going online to CanadianNaturalOils.com.
Yes, they can. And actually what they can do today is just to email Juanita.Corbett@gmail.com, or they can call me. We are building a website, but it isn't finished yet as to how you can order right from the website. We don't have that completed yet.
Okay.
But they can always just email, or of course they can call me.
Yeah. And if they're not sure of which product they want and they want to look at it, they can go to the website, get the information.
They can go to the website, and that shows them all the products, and it talks all about their, of course, benefits.
Yeah, and I'll put all the links on this video, and also they are on the website for them to refer to as well. It is so exciting to be able to explore with a real explorer, an adventurer, and bringing us a true Canadian product that is, I want to let people know it's available. It's done wonders for me. I'm very, very happy with it. I know it's not for everyone. I know nothing is for everyone. That's the thing. But when you find something that really works and that you feel really good about, you can't help but tell people. It's
amazing. In 33 years, we didn't have one guest that was allergic to it. So that was a huge surprise.
Wow.
We didn't have one in 33 years. So I'm sure there must be some out there, but they must be very rare.
Yeah, or they maybe just stay away from anything roses.
Yeah, there you go.
Like that's maybe they had a bad experience or something with roses one time.
That's probably the prickly rose.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this has been really, really exciting, and I want to wish you all the very best, and thank you so much for joining me and for sharing this information with.
Well, Catherine, thank you so much for asking me. That's great. I'm happy to share it.
Yeah, nothing happens by accident. Life is just not that way. I don't believe in accidents. Everything is so well orchestrated, and you can see that in your life so powerfully.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much, and I'll let everyone know where to reach you and where to get your product, and I wish you the best for many years of this service, which is totally a selfish blessing on my part because I want to make sure that I have a constant supply.
Thank you so much for asking. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. And for the rest of you, Make sure you check out the rest of the videos. The podcast is up now, and if you subscribe to it, you'll never miss a podcast. It's on Podbean or Apple iTunes podcast as well. All the links are on the website, lgrcc.ca. Until next time, take care. Wow, wasn't that amazing? Thank you to my guests for sharing with us today. Thank you for watching. Feel free to share the link. Preview guests and explore links to our Facebook fan page, WordPress blog, and more. We are creating an exquisite world. Until next time, take care.